video 3 on electrolyte balance. So how do we regulate all of this? Well, we regulate it through the kidneys, but it's controlled by hormones. If you refer back to your endocrine unit, and you can look that up in your book, there are actually two major hormones that affect kidney function, and those are coming from the cortex of the kidney, of the adrenal gland next to the kidney, that lays on top of the kidney. So the outer part of the adrenal gland produces mineralocorticoids, primarily aldosterone, operate on the distal convoluted tubule of the kidneys to cause increased absorption of sodium. Now, in most cases, you and I excrete sodium because of our diet, because we ingest a lot more sodium than we need. But if we were eating native diets, natural plants and animals, and not processed foods, and not pouring salt on our food, we would actually have to conserve sodium, and our kidney would do that in response to aldosterone secreted from the adrenal gland. Now, that would also help draw water in the direction, excuse me, speak of the devil, that was the drugstore. Anyway, so there's another problem, however, that I might mention associated with this, and that is that today many people are eating less and less salt. We are trying to improve our blood pressure because high salt diets increase blood pressure, right? So to be heart healthy, we are reducing our salt intake. The problem with that is that we are also then reducing our iodine intake, and that can be bad for the immune system. And there's some concern by some doctors that we are getting too little iodine in our diet today. It was not uncommon for me to see goiters during the 1950s when I was a child, but the government decided we can take care of this problem in the Midwest by putting iodine in salt, and Morton salt was one of the first to do this voluntarily, and they did a good job, and goiters disappeared. Most of you have probably never seen a person with a goiter. I'm just happen to be old enough to have seen that before that time. Apparently now, and of course this was also a problem because we didn't have seafood in the upper Midwest. Today we have more of that because our transportation system following the war and the development of modern systems and interstate highways in response to President Eisenhower's request to do that in order to improve our defense system. Actually, interstate highways were built for military movement, but we enjoy them now, which I remember as a child we didn't have them very much. So they came about, and that improved our transportation system, and now we have a food system that brings these kinds of foods all over. But some people still don't eat fish a lot, don't eat marine fish a lot, and do not get enough iodine in their diet, according to some doctors. So this is a problem. But anyway, so when the salt is conserved, the sodium is conserved, at the same time excess potassium is excreted, and this helps to rebalance balance the plasma concentrations of these minerals. Okay, the other hormone is known as anti-diuretic hormone, also known as vasopressin. It's secreted from the posterior pituitary directly from the ends of neurons. Remember we talked about how the endocrine system may have evolved from the nervous system. So directly from the ends of neurons that come from the hypothalamus, the posterior pituitary sends these hormones directly into the bloodstream at that point. And anti-diuretic hormone has two functions. One is to increase water resorption from the nephron. And when that happens, it increases automatically blood pressure. It also constricts blood vessels in the periphery. So how does this work? Well, it's sort of like plant stomata that respond to drying in dry conditions or having a lot of water. When they're turgid, they open up. In this case, cells in the hypothalamus up here above the roof of your mouth. This is where the pituitary is, above the roof of your mouth. And the hypothalamus is right up here in the lower part of the brain, one of the parts of the ancestral brain, actually. And cells in the hypothalamus detect a decrease in water concentration or a decrease in blood pressure. It secretes anti-diuretic hormone that causes you to retain more water, to conserve water. It also causes you to be thirsty so that you will go get more water. The response can be from dehydration. The response can also be from internal bleeding or bleeding, which would cause you to lose blood pressure. Anything that causes your blood pressure to decrease would cause anti-diuretic hormone or vasopressin, because it vasoconstricts the blood vessels in your limbs in order to put more pressure back towards your heart, back towards the interior of your body. So we have this hormone that improves water production, or not, because in the absence of it, then you would urinate more and you would secrete or lose more water. And this would happen if you are extremely hydrated and have too much water in your body. So the concentration of these electrolytes is stimulated, it is controlled by two hormones that affect kidney function. One, the anti-diuretic hormone from the pituitary, or also called vasopressin, causes water balance changes. Either you retain more water, or in the absence of this hormone or lesser amounts, you excrete more water. So that's going to affect the concentration of electrolytes. And then from, as we mentioned, from the adrenal cortex, the mineral corticoids cause more conservation or uptake or resorption of sodium that is lost from the nephron and the loop of Henle. And in the distal convoluted tubule, more sodium would be absorbed, more potassium would be excreted, and the balance would be returned to the body. Because we're on hormones, I would also like to remind that the hormones from the thyroid, calcitonin, and from the parathyroid hormone, also affect mineral plasma mineral concentrations. Calcitonin causes osteoblasts in the bone, in the osteon or in the Haversian system, to take more mineral out of the blood and plaster it into the bone. And you can change where that happens by how you exercise and what you exercise. So where you put the most stress on the bones in your body, that is where this will happen the most. Then the opposite is caused by parathyroid hormone, which causes osteoclasts to secrete acid onto the bone and resorb or dissolve that mineral, that hard rocky stuff that we've looked at. And this process, both of these processes are happening all the time, and it's a relative situation, right? So when a person has osteoporosis, it means that, hey, osteoblasts aren't doing a very good job, and osteoclasts are resorbing a lot of bone. This can happen in response to lack of exercise, And in many people, reversal of osteoporosis simply would require exercise, not diet, not harsh pills that are hard on your stomach, but just a good diet and plenty of exercise, at least an hour a day of exercise to prevent osteoporosis. It is natural for those hormone levels to be lower in older age, and as you get older, the exercise is extremely important. Now, there's another issue that has been in the news during the last year, and that is the amount of milk that teenage children, middle school kids especially, are getting. Doctors feel that they are not getting enough milk. At school, they're getting too much pop and alternative and sweet fruit juices, and that this is bad because they're not getting enough calcium in their diet to build strong bones and teeth. What they are seeing is a dramatic increase in green stick fractures in children, and they are recommending that children should have approximately, get this now, 5 times more milk than they are getting today in school. And I know that when I substitute in schools, I see that some kids will ask for more milk, but they can't have it because they haven't paid for it. I would like to see them have it. I think it's very important. You know, the mineral balance in our bodies and the amount that we hydrate gets real out of whack, and you've seen in your experiments with your urine testing that pH changes pretty dramatically compared to the pH levels that you have to maintain in your plasma to be alive and well and healthy. So anything outside of those 7.35 to 7.45 in your plasma can either be acidosis or alkalosis, and there's some sections in your book about that. They can cause severe problems, including tetany, heart attack, loss of memory, loss of the ability to think clearly. A person can act befuddled, drunk-like, the way you would expect a person who is severely dehydrated to act, or overheated, somebody suffering heat stroke. And these imbalances can happen because of lack of proper water intake. So we should drink 6 glasses of water a day to help our kidney do its job. It's harder on our kidneys when they have to remove excess sugar and salt because we're drinking these prepared drinks that we buy in the vending machines and over the counter, and big gulps and all that. Not good, not good at all. Water also helps to clean all of the toxins out of our body, helping to prevent cancer and to lower the amount of free radicals. The kinds of fresh vegetables that we eat can determine the amount of antioxidants that help to eliminate those free radicals. And so it's quite a complicated chemistry that is inside of our body. And remember, in all of our fluid compartments, inside the cells and outside the cells, there's big differences in chemical composition, and especially electrolyte concentrations inside versus outside. There's also differences between the intercellular or interstitial fluid and the lymph, and between the cerebrospinal fluid also. Our cerebrospinal fluid, according to one TED Talk that you can look up, is cleaned only when we are asleep. So it's important to get enough sleep also to balance the electrolyte concentrations and the pH of our body. Healthy living is healthy feeling, and none of us are eating and living a really healthy lifestyle in the food environment that we have to suffer with today from our grocery stores. It's very difficult to get beyond that, and even the use of organic foods does not get it 100%. Okay, so just think about those things and see if you can't understand the basics of how the electrolyte concentrations are balanced by hormones and by your water intake and by the foods you eat and the stuff that you drink. Okay, thanks.